I am a farmer, an upcoming farmer in Abom sub-location in Siaya County. Professionally, I'm a HR person. So on the side, my 8 to 5 engagements are on being a human resource director in an international NGO based in Nairobi. Well, farming for me is something that I started as a hobby. When I came here, which is a little bit far from where I was born, my family home is like 2 kilometers out. But when I came to settle where I am at the moment, I was also keen on finding out a farmland. And therefore, next to my home, I was able to buy a 2-acre piece of land, which after acquisition, I decided to try out my hand in farming over the last slightly over 2 years now. So basically, I did start my farming with beans. So the first season I was here, I planted Rosecoco beans, and I got quite a good yield. That interestingly, the money that I got from the Rosecoco beans is the money that I used to plaster my house, both in and out from that revenue. Then I went on to, I planted, I think after that I did plant watermelon. And I got 16 tons of watermelon from that. And so I got caught by that farming bug because the things that I was doing were quite exciting. The outcomes were really great. After the watermelon, I did groundnuts, had good harvests. I also did maize as well. And then I came into doing yellow beans. And then after that, I did vegetables. Sukuma wiki, I planted spinach, I planted cabbages, a few carrots in there, as well as even some, butternut. I put in some butternut as well at some point. So then I got a little bit curious about what else can I do. You will have realized from that story that everything that I planted, I did not replant it again. Every season had its own crop, and for me it was just an experiment to see what really am I capable of doing in Abom as a region and in my farm particularly. What happens before I farm any particular crop, I try as much as possible to also have an awareness in terms of, I read a little bit about this specific crop that I want to plant. I usually start by having an idea of how long does it take for the crop to grow, what conditions does it require, what are the pests and diseases that it can be susceptible to, and then how do I mitigate that. So basically, I first make sure that I have those in mind. Then the next step is to look at I pay a lot of attention to the weather forecast. So that is usually a determinant of when do I plant and how do I align it to my harvest, because you don't want to harvest in the middle of rain anyway. So I usually look at a platform that was developed by, I think it's Calro, has developed a platform called Kenya Agricultural Observatory Platform. It's an online platform that you can key in information of your specific area, geographic area, and be given a 7-day, 14-day, actually a 14-day weather forecast for the region. So I do pay a lot of attention to that website. And then I marry it with other online platforms, including AccuWeather and other weather platforms, so that I'm able to have an average of what the weather would look like. And so I really pay a lot of attention to the weather forecast to determine when I plant. So that is usually one of the main determinants, and it helps in the yields that I'm able to get from my farm. Now, last year I was supposed to plant sunflowers. When I read about the sunflowers, I got a little bit, I didn't feel comfortable enough. I didn't feel that I was ready enough to plant the sunflowers last year in the other season before the end of last year. And so I pulled out of that idea. And then in the beginning of this year, I started very actively looking for sunflower seeds. At that point, a friend of mine from Bondo who works with an NGO that supports sunflower farming somewhere else in the region reached out to me and asked me, Arodi, could you try sunflower in your farm, because we are doing it somewhere else, and I think that is something that you can explore in your region. And I was happy to hear that because I'd thought about the idea, but when I heard from someone who was already involved in it, in a region that is even more having tougher weather conditions than we have, I felt that this is something that I wanted to run with. And so we went into having conversations with him. We had a series of meetings, online meetings with him, to understand what really is sunflower farming, how will I go about it, and how will I get out of the whole farming experience. Now, once he was able to convince me about it, and then I also saw the government, for some reasons, was also very interested in encouraging us farmers to try seed farming, seed oil farming, and sunflower was one of the plants and the crops that the government was very encouraging us to do as farmers. And so I was happy to see that I'm going to get into something that even the government itself was excited about, and therefore I was not just going to stand out alone and then struggle to get support, even if I needed support from the government itself in terms of agricultural extension officers visiting and the like. So then I started looking for the seeds, and when I couldn't find the seeds, then I realized this thing is quite serious, because for I think a month I was not able to get seeds for the sunflower, and I reached out to Kenya Seed Company, Simlo, to place my order. They didn't have the seeds for I think a month or so, and then when the seeds came back in stock, they reached out to me to let me know that the seeds were back up. I quickly had to mobilize and get resources to do the tilling and then the harrowing of the farm, and set up to make the planting of the seeds. That was in the beginning of more or less the 2nd or 3rd of March of this year. For some reasons, there was some really crazy rains leading up to that week of March. There were a lot of rains that fell in the second week of February. So when that happened, and then the weather forecast appeared like they would be consistent, I planted my seed, and then the rain disappeared. So for the whole of March, it never rained. My seeds were in the ground, but they still sprouted nonetheless. Then the rains came in, and that was my first time to actually see what a sunflower looked like. I had never in my life before actually seen a sunflower plant physically, leave alone the pictures. And I was able to see the sprouting and the speed at which these crops grew. On the packet of the seed that I planted, the Kenya feather, it was indicated to be a 90-day crop. And having already lost 30 days to no rain, I was a little bit worried about how will I even harvest this crop in 90 days, because it's already one whole month there was no rain. And then luckily we had the rains that came in. Of course, they came together with the floods, crocodiles, and whatever arose from the heavy rains. But then the sunflower seeds really, the plants really caught up well. And at the end of it all, we were able to focus on weeds control. One of the items that I realized from the reading was that sunflowers are very susceptible to weeds, particularly weeds that are taller than them. So the focus was to make sure that the weeds do not at any point grow taller than the sunflowers. And once they were off the ground and at a height of about 2 feet, then there were no weeds that would be that tall. And in the end of it all, the sunflowers did pretty well. And then I started sharing my journey on Facebook, like I've done for all my farming projects. This also, one of the reasons I do that is, one, to encourage people who are my peers or those who are working in elsewhere but have farmlands in their rurals to try. So usually my sharing of the journey on social media is usually just to trigger people to see if they're able to try the same things back in their home, in their village farms or wherever they have bought farms at. So I started sharing the experience of the sunflowers, posting pictures, videos, narratives, and the like. And of course, I would get feedback people would flag their experiences, what they saw in their unique experiences when they planted sunflowers a few years ago or when they were kids planting, and then specifically talking about the challenges they had with, for example, birds damaging or pests and the like. So this also helped me to prepare mentally in terms of what are the potential outcomes, to a point where I remember I had decided that it would be okay to lose the entire crop. But still, I wanted to ensure that the journey was documented nonetheless. So despite the fact that there were people who had planted and lost entire crops before, and I was ready for that, I prepared for the extreme, but I made sure that my enthusiasm in this farming did not die because of those experiences. I was very much alive to them. And then I just went on to ensure that I remained on focus. We did not have any significant pest attacks on our crop. I know it was a new thing for us, for myself and the gentlemen who remained behind when I'm in Nairobi. So we just would do a lot of photography farming, because if they saw something on the leaves or on the flowers, on the budding shoots or the flowers or something like that, they would send those pictures to me, and then I would quickly have to Google and find out, is it normal? Are they having a disease, or are they having a pest attack or something like that? And then I would have to think of remedies. So, because it was a new thing for all of us, and we still kept the focus. And I remember at some point, people started sharing with me stories of other farmers who are doing the farming, the sunflower farming specifically, along the way. And I started realizing that there's a lot more that I could learn from them as well. And I remember buying a newspaper for the first time in very many years, because it featured a story of a farmer who was based in Imbo, who was doing sunflower farming. And through that, I was able to have some additional insights on what else was coming my way and what to prepare for. And luckily, at that point, I also remember that I reached out to a local area chief to connect me with the county agriculture officer or officers, whoever was responsible for our region, to also come in and offer us professional on-the-ground support and advice on how to continue and get to the tail end of the farming, because at that point we are almost at the harvesting level. And luckily I was able to get the support of the county agricultural officer who is responsible for our region. And he walked us the journey. He came in and handheld showed me how to actually now harvest, how to shell the sunflowers, prepare them for the oil press, how to ensure that the moisture content was not below the levels that would make me have the optimum oil yield from that. And for me, this was very fundamental in the way in which I was able to embrace the crop at the tail end, particularly because up to the point where I had finished, I was ready to harvest, I had no idea what I was going to do with the seeds. I had no idea what I was going to, where I was going to send the sunflower seeds for the oil in case of anything, including even people who were asking me to sell them seeds. I did not even know how to price the seed. But that said, I didn't want that to distract me. Usually I just want to the full cycle and then deal with it at the tail end. So at the end of it all, we were able to harvest, shell, and again, we were able to get an oil press machine that is actually at a color which is not very far from here, which ended up actually being my cousin's oil press. I didn't even know that he had an oil press in his home.
Once you harvest sunflower, we do threshing, that is removing the sunflower from that head. Then after that, we just dry them. We just dry them locally using the local sun, and then after that we thresh them. We clean them. That is, after cleaning, after they have been dried, we bring them here in the machine. And here, now, You just switch on the machine. You just switch on the machine, put it on, and now the oil will start coming. Now we put oil here. I mean the seeds here. We put the seeds here. Then the seed cake comes out through this channel. Then from here, then the oil comes the other side. Yeah? The oil comes this other side. Then the oil that comes from here is a bit crude. It is somehow blackish in color. And that one will depend on how clean the sunflower was done actually outside there. If it is clean, the oil is going to be slightly colored, but if the cleaning was not properly done, the oil will be very, very black. So from this other side now, we just take it to the filtration process. So once the crude oil has been made from the other side, we come with the crude oil, we pour it here in this container, and then in the container, it will come down through this filtering cloth, and then this filtering cloth will do the filtration, and the oil that comes from here is as good as the one in the supermarket or anywhere you can find. Crushing and filtering for 20 liters, we charge around 1,500. Yeah, this is now the sad flour, the remains from the factory. Now we use it as animal feeds. And animal feeds, we get the cake from the factory. We crush them in that using that machine, and then we make the sunflower dairy meal. The sunflower that is dairy meal. Now the dairy meal, we use them on a discount for milk production.
So it was a pleasant surprise, but at the end of it all, the experience has been one that is really fulfilling, very refreshing in terms of the outcome. I was able to have sunflower oil that I use now in my house, both here in the village as well as in Nairobi. I've given a few to my neighbors, the women who are involved in the tilling of this and maintaining of this sunflower oil, sunflower crop. I shared a few bottles of oil with them to have a feel of what it looked like. I did also, as part of the ways in which I was encouraging them to also participate in the sunflower farming, I did share the seeds with the women that are my neighbors. A number of them planted the seeds, show from the seed that was put, one seed that was put into the soil to a level where I now was able to harvest several liters of sunflower oil that are now being consumed in a number of people's households. So overall, it's been an experience that I've loved. It's something, it's a crop that I did a repeat farm for. As you realize, I never planted any crop twice, but my experience with the sunflower farming made me plant another seed crop. I did plant my sunflowers again 2 days ago. The day before yesterday, we were able to plant our next seed of sunflower oil. Sunflower seeds, sorry. So what we want to try is to see what are this period which we have less rain or almost no rain between July and September, what did it look like on the sunflower? So basically it's another round. This one is a specific round of experiment to actually see what is the yield going to be like, and how will the crops behave during this specific moment, this specific season. Then also, the bit is also that it allows us to, for those of us who are attached to other crops, you might be very excited about having maize on your farm or beans or groundnuts or something, but then there's this period that you have nothing in between because we don't plant maize throughout the year. But what do you do within this period that there's no rain and the maize is out of your farm? So instead of letting your farm be fallow, what else are you able to do? So essentially I'm trying to do an experiment on this specific period to see, is it possible to plant sunflowers within this gap that falls in between our usual end of maize planting to the next season where we plant our maize. And if it works, then that is something that someone else can do elsewhere. One of the things that I know that will become a pressing need with the uptake of sunflower farming is we'll need a lot more of oil pressing machines at whatever levels. The government will really have to step in, because there are no individual farmers who are going to buy a machine that costs $1 million shillings, for example. I don't know their actual cost, but they're not cheap if you look online. So one of the things that I know that the government will have to, and the county government at that also, have to invest in specifically is to get people who are able to help us get the oil pressing machines and the feed processing, animal feeds processing machines as well at our levels, so that we are able to bring in all our produce to a centralized place and be able to take home our oils, be able to get home our animal feeds that are formulated at that point. And then, because the sunflower as a crop generally has no waste. Everything that emerges at the point of harvesting is utilized. That stem is consumed by the livestock. That head, after removing the seed, is actually consumed, is a livestock feed as well. When you come from pressing the oil, the seed cake is also a livestock feed. So you find that is one of the crops that actually leaves no waste on the ground, and you come out with a lot more satisfaction. For me, I came out with a lot more satisfaction in farming of the sunflower than I've ever done in any other seed before. So overall, that is, in a nutshell, my journey with the sunflower farming. And it's something that I'm really happy to see more of us uptaking in the subsequent seasons. And let's hope that we are able to reduce the dependency on one imported oil, and also the processed oil in the factories, because you can actually have your own sunflower oil at home and use it as it's needed. I have a friend who actually let me know that he has a sunflower processing, a domestic level sunflower processing, oil processing machine that he bought, that he just processes oil, the seeds as needed, which was exciting to see that he's able to actually press the oil in his house and just press as much as he needs for the time that he needs it, and then leave the seeds intact. So the thing is, we should be able at some point to have those levels of even domestic oil production where we're just doing as needed basis for those of us who will be able to afford their own domestic oil pressing machines. So it is something that I believe will be a game changer. And as such, at the end of it all, it is even possible to actually set a large-scale industry when we have an uptake of sunflower farming in the region. Then it's very easy when people see where they will take that farm. If we have an industry that is set up, a factory or something like that, that's really large-scale, that'll be very exciting, just like sugarcane farming. It will be very exciting for them to get contracted farmers and then be able to process these oils and have them on our tabletops at the end of it all. So essentially, for me, it's a journey that I would encourage a lot of us to try. Among other things, but sunflower for me gave me the biggest farming experience and satisfaction that I've ever had as a farmer. Now, what did I incur before the planting? I had to till the land at 3,000 shillings per acre, and my land is less than 2 acres. But of course, the tractor people charge it as 2 acres, so I paid 6,000 bob, and then I bought the seeds I used seeds that were worth, let's say, 700 shillings. And then I used manual labor to plant it, to plant the farm. That cost me about 4,000 shillings. To pay I don't bring in a lot of people, because when there are too many, then there's a risk of mistakes and people doing the wrong spacing and the like, and being just lazy, messing up the whole process because they want to rush home or something like that. So I bring in a very small group of young men and women, particularly there are more women than the men in my farm usually, so that they are involved in this process. And in terms of the planting, it's the recommended spacing is 60 by 30 or 75. I saw another one at 75 by 25 or some centimeters. So this current seed that I harvested, I did not even use that recommended seeds spacing, because I was really doubting. I was like, this is too small. Why would I put 25 centimeters between. I was still arguing because I was like, the head of a sunflower is pretty large. So I was really having a lot of doubts in terms of how, if that space was optimum. Of course, I understand as an agricultural person that you need to appreciate the seed rates and the spacing for optimum utilization of the farm and even harvest. But for this one, I did it a little bit. The spacing was a little bit bigger between the seeds. But what I planted yesterday and the day before yesterday is as indicated at 60 by 30. So come September, I look up to getting a better seed harvest and a better oil production. So basically, when you look at it, it's not something that, because if you are farming at 3,000 per acre, I also brought in a harrow to just break the soil, because sunflower seeds are pretty small. So you don't want to have those boulders of soil pressing on them at the point of germination. So that also is another 3,000 shillings per acre. So looking at it wholesomely, I would say that the total cost that I had to incur to set up the farm for the 2 acres, rounded up, is just about 20,000, slightly over 20,000, and I was ready to go. And then I weeded this crop only once, unlike maize that I had to weed 3 times to have a great harvest. So for me, those are some of the advantages that I've seen over the sunflower farming. Now, in terms of the identification of the people that work in my farm for me and me, they are basically my neighbors. The women that work here are the women that are neighboring my home. One is to provide them something to take home at the end of the day. It reduces the dependency of having to get handouts, that when I'm walking around, someone has to stop me and ask me, for example, could you help me with 300 shillings or 500 shillings for food? I'd rather they come and work to the levels that they can and then get that money and take it home. And in any case, money that is given for women, research has shown that money that is given to women actually gets back to the household almost fully intact. I'm not the first sunflower farmer in the region. That's actually what I realized when I planted these sunflowers. A number of the people who are involved in the initial plantation of the seeds, I remember the women and the younger men would confess to having seen their parents planting sunflower seeds many years ago when they were pretty young. So we're talking of like 30 or so years back, or slightly more. And everyone was stating how birds ate their crop and they never planted. There were also instances of people sharing how they were able to harvest the seeds, but they did not know what to do with them. And of course, that was the reality with myself. I did not know what I was going to do with the products of my sunflower, but still, I didn't want that to distract me. Now, my largest fear at that point, when the sunflower started emerging, was actually the birds, because that started coming out very clearly. And I remember one time I visited one of my neighbors, and I saw the weaver birds, or sogo, notorious for really attacking cereals. And when I saw the weaver birds camped in his compound, in the trees in his compound, I was like, oh my goodness. Now I have to feed all these weaver birds. They'll definitely be attacking my farm and the like. But I think for some reasons, I don't have an explanation as to why my farm did not have a birds attack. I don't know. I don't know. I cannot attribute, I don't know what to attribute it to. I was alive to that fact that I was supposed to have weaver bird or birds really raining in on my farm. But I realized I did not, even at the point of harvest, we did not have sunflower heads that were attacked by the birds and eaten out. I totally cannot tell. But what I liked is the fact that despite the knowledge that that was a potential risk of losing a significant amount of my crop, I still went ahead and was able to harvest a substantive amount of my sunflower seed. And the thing is, for every 4 kilos, for this particular species of seeds that I planted, for every kilo, every 4 kilos of sunflower seed, I was able to get a liter of sunflower oil. So when I look at when I saw the oil dripping out of the machine, I was elated. I was very excited about the outcome, and it is something that I decided I would do it more. I would do it more. I'll probably plant sunflowers more than any other crop to a level that I never imagined when I started this. And I would encourage those of us who are scared of the potential risks. Remember, agriculture, even if it's not rain-fed, is actually a very high-risk engagement, because the things that can, particularly for us who are dealing on rain-fed agriculture, if, for example, I had a hailstone fall in any of those rains, that's one of those when the rains were becoming quite intense. The other worry that I had was of hailstones. And I was like, if hailstones hit my farm, they will literally strip out all the leaves and probably damage all the sunflower heads. But still, it's the same fear I used to have when I was planting beans. It's the same fear I had when I was planting watermelons, because those hailstones can be massive and they damage anything. If they can break the windscreen of a car, they would penetrate anything. So when it did happen, I looked at it with a lens of optimism. And one thing that I say at the moment is I've decided, particularly from the sunflower experience, that when rain is coming, I go to the rain with a bucket rather than with an umbrella. So my approach to farming moving forward is going to the rains with a bucket to harvest the water rather than with an umbrella to block myself from the rainfall. So that is that is the optimism in which I approach my farming, and particularly this experience that I've had. I have, at this moment I'm sitting here, planted another crop of sunflower. This is because I was very encouraged with the outcome. Once I'm able to have access to even producing animal feed, I have just a few chicken. But that is an encouragement where I knew that now if the numbers, the volumes of my sunflower seeds increase, then even the animal feeds that come out of it, the byproducts, are immensely useful. And so it's not just about you planting the sunflower. It also helps you, it's a hinge on which you can start other streams of farming, including dairy, goat, pig, poultry, and every other livestock that you'd put will be a consumer of your sunflower byproducts. So for me, it is something that I would encourage anyone within our region of Nyanza specifically to try it out. It is an experience that, fine, if birds eat your sunflower, it's an experience. But I don't think birds will empty 2 acres of sunflower seeds. That's how I looked at it. Even when I came in here, let me give an example of maize. When I came in here and planted maize, I remember I was told that there were monkeys, they are still there. There were monkeys that were coming right into my compound. They broke all the purpose I ever planted. But the thing is, I was told that the monkeys would eat all my maize. Yes, the first month, the first planting of maize, the monkeys actually ate the entire acre of maize that I planted. But it stopped me from planting 2 acres 6 months later. So the point is, when we approach this rain-fed agriculture, let us approach it with an open mind, knowing that when the extremes happen, it shouldn't dampen you. We cannot go bring graders and wipe out the soil of our land simply because monkeys or birds came and ate out whatever we planted. We continue soldiering on and getting more produce from the farm. And like the Luo say, Pudo Kriambi, the land does not lie. And it's not likely that you will get less than what you planted in terms of the seed. If you plant 1 seed, you'll definitely get more than a seed. If you focus on that, it's already a sign of hope on its own. Please give it a try. Sunflower farming for me is something that we can run with, and it's going to be big. This is the sunflower oil that we are able to process from the sunflower seeds that I have. And we are using it domestically in our house, in our kitchens, my friends' kitchens, those who have been able to come and patronize it. So it's something you can imagine if you have 5 liters or 10 liters of this in your homestead, or even 20 liters. It's more than you can consume in a month. So therefore, I really encourage you to give it a shot. Plant it, have your own oil being part of your dining table and your kitchen top. I believe that it's all possible. So I'm really happy to show the outcome of this farming experience. We also had to appreciate that there's also need for us to be able to have some vegetables for the household as well. And therefore, this is we usually don't till this part of the land because it always has a crazy runoff from the compound that really causes a very bad level of soil erosion here. And therefore, I was able to go and get this vertical garden farm. And they were set up here to put in a lot of these vegetables. As you can see, we have planted a lot more vegetables in a very small area of space. And this helps us to ensure that we have the mbogas that we might need to use in that very kitchen where we are cooking using the sunflower oil. And this is also something that people can put on the back end behind their houses. In those shopping centers where our people stay, there is uko nyuma ya nyumba, you can put one of these. It is not likely that when you have one of these with almost 100 or more than 100 vegetable seedlings or stems, that you'll be able to consume this in a day. So you'll be able to have a different mix of vegetables. I have skuma here. You can see there is cabbage here. We keep harvesting them regularly, so you can see the leaves are not they're not so many because we planted them to eat them. So we are eating them, selling the extras to people who wish to have mbogas as well. There is also onion on the other side. So basically, I can come in here, take the onions, have the spinach, have sukuma wiki, have this other brand of sukuma wiki with me as well, and go and cook with the sunflower oil that I got from my farm. So essentially, I'm in control of everything that I am eating on my table, particularly in this era where people have a lot of skepticism in terms of what is it really that we're having on our tabletops. In this case, I'm aware of what I am having on my tabletop. I know where my skuma has come from. I know where my maize at the maize mill has come from. So this is something that we can all try at the back of our houses, in that spot that is next to your parking or somewhere near the house of the chicken or the dogs or something like that. You can put up these vertical gardens and be able to keep your food security intact moving forward. And this was done by, there's just a guy who came in here from GEM, and he came in and set up this and taught the young men who work with me here how to set them up. So you only put the first two, and the others were put from a knowledge transfer, which he did when he came to set this up. So these are some of the ways in which we can keep our farms busy, keep them generating all that we need at the tabletop, and keep healthy as far as we can.